man has died after being shot during the rioting, which has now spread from London to other major cities. The Prime Minister is visiting Croydon now and has recalled Parliament, saying thousands more police will be deployed on the streets tonight.
I am determined, the government is determined, that justice will be done and these people will see the consequences of their actions.
I urge all the citizens of London and the guardians and the parents of young people to actually keep them in tonight.
Hundreds have been arrested with services stretched. Police in London say custody cells are now full.
And the violence spreads to Birmingham, Bristol, Nottingham and Liverpool.
Questions are being asked over police tactics and their ability to protect shops and people.
I just think that if the police were stretched so badly, they need to get the army into the area because we didn't have no police presence.
And in other news, it's a volatile day on the financial markets, with the FTSE briefly dipping below 5,000 points for the first time in over a year. Good afternoon, and we begin with breaking news. And in the latest development regarding the riots in London and throughout cities in the country, the Prime Minister has visited one of the worst hit areas overnight in Croydon in South London, where huge fires burned, in particular a huge furniture store which was 150 years old and burnt to the ground in 45 minutes because of arson and looting in the area. Earlier, the Prime Minister condemned the third night of violence on the streets of London. A 26-year-old man who was shot during the riots in Croydon died in hospital this morning. Well, David Cameron cut short his holiday and returned to the UK to chair an emergency meeting this morning. He said Parliament would be recalled on Thursday and thousands more police officers deployed on the streets of the capital tonight.
The Metropolitan Police have described the riots as the worst in current memory. They first fled after a peaceful protest in Tottenham on Saturday over the fatal shooting of a man by police in London last week, but have since spread to other major cities in England too.
Well, in the capital, looters raided shops and set cars on fire across areas including Croydon, Clapham Junction, Ealing, Peckham, Lewisham, Woolwich and Hackney. Over 525 people have been arrested. Police in London say cells are now full. Our Home Affairs correspondent Matt Prodger has the very latest.
For a few hours last night, anarchy came to the streets of London. This is what happens when a fear of the police evaporates. The worst of the fires were in Croydon. A photographer caught the moment a woman leapt for her life from a burning building. The mobs were feral, unabashed, ruling the streets. In Barking, this film shows a youth cowering on the ground, a pool of his blood on the floor. At first, a rioter appears to help him up, before they ransack his bag, rob him, and leave him in their wake.
He just took something from his bag.
These scenes are from Woolwich, but they could have been from Hackney, Lewisham, Peckham, Ealing, Clapham, or any one of dozens of places.
Let's get some watches, man.
At daybreak, the scale of the damage became apparent. The shops the police had been unable to protect. Here in Clapham, local people say the looting went on for more than 2 hours without a policeman in sight. Across the capital, more than 20,000 999 calls were made in a 24-hour period. That's 4 times more than usual. Police say it was their worst ever night. And there were calls this morning for local communities to help the police deal with the looters.
The message to so many local people is please get your kids in off the street, and if your child has new trainers today or has suddenly acquired something that they didn't have yesterday, ask them some tough questions about why they got it. And if you think they got it through looting, you march them down to the police station and hand them over, because a lot of parents, grandparents, extended family members need to ask some tough questions of their young people this morning.
Similar sentiments were expressed several miles away in Ealing, this time by furious shopkeepers.
I've come here this morning, all my clothes are strewn all over Ealing Green here. It's absolutely disgusting. They are feral rats. What are those parents doing? Those children should be at home. They shouldn't be out here causing mayhem. I'm absolutely livid, as is everybody else here.
This morning, the Prime Minister returned to Britain. After a meeting of the emergency committee COBRA, he visited senior police officers to discuss strategy.
I am determined, the government is determined, that justice will be done and these people will see the consequences of their actions. And I have this very clear message to those people who are responsible for this wrongdoing and criminality. You will feel the full force of the law. And if you are old enough to commit these crimes, you are old enough to face the punishments.
Already this morning, the police said that every prison cell in London was full to capacity. Suspected looters have been transported to stations outside the capital. A warehouse belonging to the electronics company Sony was still billowing smoke today, even as police steel themselves for what may lie ahead. Matt Prodger, BBC News.
Well, the British Prime Minister has promised to increase the number of police on London's streets tonight by 10,000 in the wake of a third night of rioting. Buildings burned out of control as hundreds of youths in at least 10 separate boroughs looted shops, confronted police and set vehicles alight. Gordon Carrera reports.
Scenes of chaos and devastation. Sights no one had predicted and which have shocked the country. This was a furniture store in Croydon, South London last night, ablaze with flames and smoke reaching into the sky. This morning the owners gave their reaction.
Why would this happen to us? Because 150 years of service is just gone in a flash. If it is the community doing it, we don't understand. It's not comprehensive. There must be something completely wrong in the system of the country that allows this to happen.
Yesterday there was trouble in the afternoon in Hackney. In broad daylight there were running battles between youths and police. This wave of violence began following the death of this man, Mark Duggan, on Thursday in Tottenham. He was shot by police in circumstances still unclear. Protests began locally at his killing with a march to the police station, but tension boiled over into violence, which has spread across London and now to other cities.
These have been the worst scenes of violence and disturbance on our streets for many, many years. And this sort of violence, this level of criminality, this thuggery, this looting, this theft is completely unacceptable. We can deal with it. We can deal with it with robust policing, with good use of intelligence, but also with the help and support of local communities.
There now appears little unifying the violence, other than a desire to cause damage and to steal. It's led to football games being called off, including the England friendly tomorrow at Wembley, and it's less than a year until London is due to host the Olympics. This unverified footage put up on YouTube appears to show an injured young man being initially helped by others, before they decide to steal what they can from his rucksack. The police are at full stretch. All cells in London are now full. 3 people have been arrested on suspicion of the attempted murder of a police officer. Police have blamed social media for helping to spread the trouble and asked parents to take responsibility for their children. In Clapham Junction last night, police used armoured vehicles, and they say they'll now consider using this tactic elsewhere. There have even been calls for the use of water cannons, the introduction of curfews, or bringing in the army. This morning there was an emergency meeting of the Cabinet Crisis Committee, COBRA, chaired by the Prime Minister, who'd returned early from his holiday. Parliament is being recalled for a day on Thursday, and the Prime Minister said extra measures would be taken.
Compared with the 6,000 police on the streets last night in London, there will be some 16,000 officers tonight. All leave within the Metropolitan Police has been cancelled. There will be aid coming from police forces up and down the country, and we will do everything necessary to strengthen and assist those police forces that are meeting this disorder.
This morning, many communities are cleaning up. They're hoping that tonight will not bring more trouble, and hoping that police and the government can find a way of preventing that happening. Gordon Carrera, BBC News.
Our reporter John Brain is in Croydon, one of the worst hit areas last night, as you saw in that report. John, it looks like a scene from the Blitz behind you, and we understand in the last few moments David Cameron has had the opportunity to see the damage from last night's riots for himself.